Hello, everyone. You did an absolutely amazing job with your Earth Day instruments. I saw so much creativity and so much mastery in those rhythms that we tried doing together. That was absolutely amazing, and some of them are going to be posted up on our website real soon. I'm so glad you got to use and recycle all these different kinds of materials, repurposed them, and made some really exciting and really amazing projects. Nice job to everyone that participated. So, we are actually going to be preparing now for our music assessment. So, it's a big assessment that we try to do every year that we're going to start to do at the end of the year to review everything we've learned so far. So that way we can improve our skills, improve our technique, and learn lots of different projects musically and grow as musicians, okay? So we're going to review everything we've done up until now so that we can get ready for our test next week, okay? So we're going to review the following. At the beginning of the year, we learned all the orchestral and wind instruments. We're going to review some of the musical symbols. Now with those musical symbols, we're going to do a little bit of musical math work. Now that's going to happen where we just kind of need to add. There's not going to be any subtraction, nothing too complicated. We're going to review the note names with the treble clef. Now, the note names for the treble clef, we need to make sure you grab a piece of paper so that we can write all of this down, especially for those note names, since those we need to review. We're also going to be just reviewing the basic fingerings that we learned on our instrument, the recorder, because the recorder is going to stay with us all the way through 5th grade. So this is something we need to keep fresh and ready for whenever we're ready in music class, okay? So let's take a look now. We're just going to review the first orchestral instruments. So, recall that there are 4 families of instruments inside of our orchestra. We have string instruments, woodwind instruments, brass, and percussion. So in your head, you should have already had sparks of all these different instruments that we've already seen. So the 4 families of instruments. The first family, our brass family, has instruments like the trombone, trumpet, and French horn. The percussion family has the timpani, okay? Large drums, marimba, conga, xylophone, bass drum, and snare drum. The woodwinds. Now the woodwind family, we've seen something similar. Now we actually play a woodwind instrument. Our recorder falls into the woodwind family. The flute, clarinet, oboe, saxophone, and piccolo. The string family. The violins, viola, cello, double bass, and even the guitar all fall into the string family. So take a look at all the instruments of each family. Notice in the brass family, I have metal instruments. The trombone, the tuba, trumpet, and the French horn. The French horn is a circular one. It's a long pipe of metal tubing curled up to form the pitches for the instrument. In the percussion, the instrument at the top is actually called the timpani. The timpani are these large drums with stretched animal skin. And so the timpani has a pedal that changes the pitch. So there are these large mallets that you use, and the percussion is usually toward the back of the orchestra. String instruments are usually the more popular ones. The string instruments stay at the front of the orchestra. The string instruments include the violin, like the one you see over here, the double bass, and the cello. The woodwind instruments. Now, we play a woodwind instrument, our recorders. But the most prominent and the most featured of the woodwind instruments, the ones that usually tune the whole orchestra, is the oboe. Do you see the oboe there at the top? Now the oboe is a double reed instrument with 2 pieces of cane that are woven together to make the sound. You have the saxophone, the clarinet, the piccolo, which is a smaller sister of the flute, and of course you've heard our flute all the time, since I'm a flute player. So, try and study on your instruments. Definitely pay attention to how many families there are and explore all the instruments of the orchestra. Now we're going to take a look at all the musical symbols that we've seen in all the music that we've played together, and in all the different rhythms that we've done as well. There's probably just a couple new ones that we should just refresh ourselves with as well. So, my musical symbols. We're going to start with the very largest of my musical symbols, the whole note. The whole note is worth 4 beats, okay? So, the way I would clap that out, I would want to have my hands together and say 1, 2, 3, 4. Because the duration of the whole note is exactly 4 beats. Okay? So if I'm playing on my recorder, 4 beats. On A, 4 beats exactly. If I were to cut that in half, it says it in the name. A half note is half of the whole note. So it's worth only 2 beats. Okay? Follow my hands. I have a whole note here. Add the stem, and now I have a half note. Whole note is worth 4. Half note is worth 2. Fill in the note and add your stem, and now you have a quarter note. You have a quarter note now. So my quarter note has exactly 1 beat. Do you notice that we're decreasing in value? We went from 4 to 2 to 1. We're cutting each in half. And I'm going to keep doing that with the next note, the 8th note. So the 8th note is actually worth half a beat. But do you see 2 note heads there? I do. So, there are always 2 8th notes for 1 beat. Sounds like this. 2 8th notes, TT, but they're worth 1 beat. So if I'm counting, this is my beat. Beat, beat, steady beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to add my 8th notes. T, 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 T. Do you hear that there's only 2 8th notes for every 1 beat? So 2 8th notes is 1 beat. Remember that, okay? I have a dotted half note. So it's like a half note, but there's something special about it. It actually has a dot next to it. So that means it's worth 3 beats, okay? Only worth 3 beats. The dotted quarter note is a special kind that's followed by an 8th note. So this one is 1.5 beats because it's a quarter note. We saw our quarter note. Looks like this. Now my quarter note, if it's dotted, is worth 1.5. Okay? 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and. So, we've talked about everything that should produce sounds, but in music there's also silent sounds and silent symbols. So my half rest looks like a top hat. Just like a top hat, and it's worth 2 beats. It's so uppity it only can wait 2 beats. So impatient, it's a top hat. My half rest worth 2 beats. Now my whole rest is so lazy, it wants to hang out the whole time. So it's going to be worth 4 beats. It takes up the whole measure. So you wait with silence for 4 beats. Shh, 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 shh. For 4 whole beats. Now we've seen this one for sure. So in our symbols, we have our quarter rest worth 1 beat. It's 1 beat of silence. So if I'm adding my beat, 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 steady beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. That was 4 quarter rests back to back. So remember, 1 beat of rest. So we just reviewed all of our musical symbols. So we got to do a little bit of math. Just like in all of our music, some notes add up. And just like our sounds, we got to make sure each sound gets its right value. And so we have to give each note its right value. So this is how music and math all tangle up, and it's all related. So when I have, let's look at problem number 1. In problem number 1, I have quarter note plus quarter note. I have to think and remember, how much is a quarter note worth? A quarter note is worth 1 beat. So then I have to look at my problem. And what I can do is think, instead of the quarter note, I just think 1, because it's worth 1 beat. So 1 plus 1 equals 2. And I found my answer that way. So very simple, my musical math, I'm adding the beats. Adding the beats. The steady, steady, steady beats. So I'm looking at number 2 now. I said something earlier. I have 2 eighth notes connected there. 2 eighth notes are worth what? If you paid attention, then that it was worth 1 beat. So 1 plus 1 equals 2. Alright, I hope everyone understood. We're adding simple beats. Let's take a look at problems 3 and 4. So I have a whole note plus 2 eighth notes connected together. How much was a whole note worth? It was the largest of my rhythm tree. Worth 4 beats. And we just found out that 2 eighth notes equals 1 beat. So 4 plus 1 equals 5. Nice. Let's take a look at problem number 4. So I have what looks like there the half note. So the half note is worth 2 beats, plus we just saw that the whole note is worth 4. So 2 plus 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's worth 6. Nice. Now, there's going to be one question on how much our rests are worth. So sometimes we have to hold out our silence in our music for a little while longer. So that's why it's important to add them up. So let's see. That rest is so lazy it's hanging upside down. So it's worth 4 whole beats of silence. And we know our lightning bolt, the quarter rest, is worth 1. So 4 plus 1 equals 5. All right. Very simple, very math, very musical at the same time. Let's take a look now. We need to review our note names. So on your test, you're going to make sure that you remember the phrases. For our treble clef only, for the lines and the spaces. So for our lines, we'll always need to remember, we always go from bottom to top. From bottom to top. We start with every good boy does fine. Now these are the names of my 5 lines. Take your hand out like this. I always start from bottom, my pinky, to the top, my thumb. Every good boy does fine. You can use your hand as your cheat sheet. So if I take out my hand, now I always know I start from the pinky All I need to do is remember, every good boy does fine. So let's say I have a note, and I have a note there. That blue note is on the stack, and I need to find the answer and identify the note. So I know it's on the bottom line. I take out my hand, and I check it's on the bottom line, my pinky. And I'm thinking to myself, every good boy does fine. I have it on the pinky. So that note is E, because it starts with every. E, G, B, D, and F. Those are your 5 lines that you're going to use your hand with, okay? Now my spaces. So my spaces spell out a special word. Every space should have a face. Simple to remember. In between your fingers, you have how many spaces? 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 spaces that spell out the word face. So from bottom to top, F, A, C, E. So I have the word face. If we put all of our lines and spaces together, it actually spells out all the letters of the musical alphabet. E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, and F. All the lines and spaces of my alphabet, musical alphabet. Alright, so for your test, you're also going to need to refresh yourself on your recorder basics. All the notes that we learned from the white belt up to the green belt. Now don't worry if you didn't make it all the way to the green belt, or even if you didn't make it to the black belt. We're going to be using our recorders all the way through 5th grade, so we master them. So, take a look now. We're going to review just a little bit of our fingerings. So these are the fingering charts that we've learned and were in your Recorder Karate booklet. So, I have the first note, B. Make sure you put that to memory, okay? It's just one finger, and there's always a dot next to that fingering chart to let you know you need your thumb in the back. So it's your first finger and the thumb. A. It's the second note you ever learned on your recorder. And the last note, G. So, put to memory, I have 1 dot filled in for B, 2 dots filled in for A, and 3 dots filled in for G. 3 more notes are necessary for your test so that we can get this all, so we can ace it. So, F. You need your 3 fingers, left hand always on top, and 1 finger on the bottom. Notice that for these notes, these are all my low F, E, and D. Low F, E, and D. Make sure you remember the difference between low F, E, and D and high F, E, and D. We've only ever learned the low versions for now. So make sure you put these to memory. F with 1 finger. 2 fingers on the right hand is E. The low E. And the last one with 3 fingers on the bottom, D. For the low D. Put those to memory. Alright everyone, so you're going to have this whole week to review this video and to review the flashcards that I have on the website so that you can study for your test. Next week, you're going to have to take your test. So what you're going to do is look for your teacher's name and take your test. This video and the study cards won't be available while the test is up. So make sure you study and good luck everyone. Okay, Goodbye.